Thank you, Chairman Cummings. Ranking Member Jordan, thank you. And to my Congressman, Mr. Raskin, thank you for being here. I'm honored to be here. I'm David Mitchell, founder of Patients for Affordable Drugs. More importantly, I have an incurable blood cancer, and prescription drugs are keeping me alive. Every 2 weeks, I spend a half a day at a clinic getting an infusion of drugs that are currently priced annually at $650,000. I've relapsed twice, and unfortunately, I'm failing on this current drug regime. Eventually, I'm going to run out of options. So the importance of innovation is not theoretical for me. It's literally life and death. But my experience as a patient taught me one irrefutable fact, and that is drugs don't work if people can't afford them. When I learned I was sick, my doctors put me on a drug called Revlimid. Pam Holt will talk about her experience with Revlimid. But for Medicare patients in general, out-of-pocket costs for Revlimid can run to $15,000 a year. The principal reason it's so expensive is because its maker, Celgene, has gamed the system and refused to sell samples to generic companies who want to bring a competitor to market. But Celgene isn't alone in making high prices for drug. Take Johnson & Johnson. I take one of its drugs called Darzalex. The monthly price is $36,000. It has increased almost 20% in just a little over 3 years. Or Pfizer. Meg Jackson Drage from Magna, Utah has fibromyalgia and neuropathic pain. Meg was prescribed Lyrica. But when she found out it would cost her $550 out of pocket each month, even with a discount card, she decided to take only a third of the dose her doctor recommends for her. But to address the problem of out-of-control prices, we really have to come to grips with some larger facts. Despite what drug companies tell us, sky-high prices are not about innovation. Multiple studies show that there is no correlation between the cost of R&D and the price of a drug. And taxpayers foot a huge portion of the bill for the basic science that leads to new drugs. Every single drug approved by the FDA from 2010 to 2016 was based on science funded by taxpayers through the NIH. In fact, the NIH is the single largest funder of biomedical research in the world. Meanwhile, independent analyses show that 9 of 10 drug companies spend more on advertising and marketing than they do on R&D. Why do drug companies charge so much? Because they can. Yes, drug companies should profit when they develop innovative drugs, but we are way out of balance right now, and it's costing us all in our family finances, our health outcomes, and our lives. So I want to suggest 3 things that we could do today to rebalance the actual risk of innovation with a fair price for patients. 1, reform patent law. 2, end the days of monopoly pricing power without taxpayer negotiations, and force transparency from drug middlemen. Let's start with patent law. Brand drug companies are abusing our system to extend their government-granted monopolies and block competition. They use a whole array of tactics. Mr. Jordan mentioned REMS abuses, anti-competitive pay-for-delay deals, patent thickets, evergreening, sham citizen petitions. We need to correct those, and there are bills moving through Congress to do that. Next, we need direct Medicare price negotiations, and we need to restructure Medicare Part D. Our current system isn't working. We pay 2 to 3 times what other countries pay for the exact same drugs. One big reason is that other countries negotiate. We should too. International reference pricing is proposed by the administration, or inflation caps that were just passed out of the Senate Finance Committee on a bipartisan vote are other ways to approach this to restrain list prices. We also need to restructure Part D along the lines of the legislation that cleared Senate Finance yesterday. And finally, we need more transparency around PBMs. These huge companies cut deals that determine how much patients pay, but it's all secret. Competition, free markets, can't work without transparency. Right now, there's a fundamental question drug companies want us to ask about drug prices. What are we willing to pay to save a life? And well, that's easy. When it's your child's ability to live, to breathe, when it's your wife's diabetes, when it's your own cancer, the answer is anything. But that's the wrong question. The question we should be asking is, what is the right amount of money that drug companies should make on these drugs? With literally hundreds of clinical trials underway for new gene therapies that are currently priced at $500,000 or more, we can't pay just any price the drug companies demand. Neither American families nor our healthcare system can afford that. I feel incredibly grateful to be here today representing patients all across the country. I believe the moment is at hand and we can address this problem, and with bipartisan support, we will. Thank you again for having me.